The twin suns of cerulean, 3 blazed overhead, casting jagged shadows across the crimson dunes. Ezra Callahan adjusted his wide-brimmed hat and squinted against the glare. His horse, a sleek mechanical steed named Daisy, kicked up fine particles of alien sand as it trotted along the trail. Ezra was a cowboy through and through, but not the kind you'd find on old Earth. He was a Starlight wrangler, a bounty hunter who rode the edge of the galaxy's wild frontier, tracking down everything from rogue androids to interstellar bandits. Today's job had taken him farther into uncharted territory than he'd ever ventured before. The payout was supposed to be big, enough to finally buy back the ranch his family lost generations ago. But now, his comlink was dead, and his tracker had gone haywire. The mysterious signal he'd been chasing flickered and vanished. Ezra sighed and reached for his flask of water. The sudden hum of machinery made him pause. A shadow passed overhead, fast as a hawk. Ezra instinctively reached for his plasma pistol. "Easy, Daisy," he muttered, patting the machine's neck. The shadow grew, resolving into a sleek alien craft descending from the sky. It gleamed like obsidian, its surface etched with glowing blue runes. Ezra's heart raced as he turned Daisy toward the cover of a nearby rock formation. But before he could spur her forward, a beam of energy engulfed him. "Ah, hell," he managed before the world dissolved into blinding light. When Ezra woke, his head throbbed like he'd been kicked by a Martian mule. He groaned and sat up, blinking against the bright, unfamiliar surroundings. The air smelled sweet, like a meadow after rain, and he realized he was no longer in the arid desert. He was inside a vast chamber with walls made of crystalline material. Light filtered through them in shifting colors. All around him stood towering figures, their silhouettes unmistakably female. The warriors were tall and lithe, their skin shimmering in hues of blue and green. Their eyes glowed faintly, like stars in the night sky. Each carried a weapon unlike anything Ezra had seen. Curved blades that crackled with energy, bows that seemed to generate their own arrows of light. One stepped forward, taller than the rest, her presence commanding. She wore a crown of what looked like woven starlight. "Human," she said, her voice resonant and melodic. "You stand before the matriarchs of the ishel." Ezra tipped his hat, trying to hide his fear behind a veneer of charm. "Well, howdy, ladies. I reckon this ain't the saloon I was looking for." The warrior women exchanged glances, their expressions unreadable. "You are not here by chance," the leader continued. "You were chosen." "Chosen?" Ezra echoed. "For what, exactly?" "To preserve the legacy of our people," she said gravely. "The ishel are a proud race, but we are dying. Our males fell long ago in the wars of the twin suns. Without them, we cannot endure. You, human, possess the vitality we require." Ezra's jaw dropped. "You mean, you want me to be some kinda stud?" The warriors murmured, their voices like a symphony of wind chimes. "In crude terms, yes," the leader said. "You shall join with us, become the father of the stars, and ensure the survival of our lineage." Ezra scrambled to his feet, holding up his hands. "Now, hold on just a second. I'm flattered, truly, but I ain't exactly looking to settle down. Besides, don't y'all think this is a mite forward?" The leader's expression softened slightly. "You misunderstand, human. This is not a request. It is a duty you will fulfill, or you will face elimination." Ezra glanced around at the warriors, noting the way their hands hovered near their weapons. He swallowed hard. "Well, when you put it like that..." Ezra soon discovered that the ishel didn't merely intend for him to fulfill his duty right away. First, he had to prove himself worthy through a series of trials. The first trial was one of strength. Ezra was led to an arena where he faced a creature unlike anything he'd ever seen. A 6-legged beast with razor-sharp claws and a mouth full of writhing tentacles. Armed only with a spear, he fought for his life, narrowly emerging victorious. The second trial tested his cunning. He was placed in a labyrinth filled with shifting walls and deadly traps, tasked with retrieving a glowing crystal from its center. His years of bounty hunting served him well, and he completed the trial with seconds to spare. The final trial was the most difficult, a test of his heart. He was shown visions of his past, his failures and regrets. The ranch he'd lost, the family he'd let down, the comrades he couldn't save. The ishel watched as he grappled with his pain, emerging stronger for it. When he finally stood before the matriarchs again, bruised and battered but unbroken, the leader nodded in approval. "You have proven yourself, Ezra Callahan," she said. "You are worthy to become the father of the stars." Ezra soon learned that life among the ishel was not as simple as he'd feared. The warriors were not just fierce but deeply intelligent and curious. They began to share their culture with him, teaching him their songs, their history, their art. One warrior in particular stood out, Kaelara, the matriarch's second in command. She was fierce yet compassionate, her laugh like music. She challenged Ezra in ways he hadn't been challenged before, forcing him to confront not only his prejudices but also his own capacity for connection. As the days turned into weeks, Ezra began to feel a sense of belonging he hadn't felt in years. The ishel weren't just warriors. They were a people struggling to survive, to protect what they held dear. But even as he grew closer to them, a shadow loomed on the horizon. Strange ships had been spotted near the ishel territory, bearing the markings of the Auric, an expansionist alien race known for enslaving weaker civilizations. Ezra knew what was coming. The Auric wouldn't negotiate. They would attack, and the ishel would need every advantage they could get. Ezra took to the task of preparing the ishel for war with the same determination he'd shown in the trials. He shared tactics he'd learned as a bounty hunter, teaching the warriors how to outthink their enemies. Kaelara became his partner in strategy, the two of them working late into the night to devise defenses. Despite the dire circumstances, there was an undeniable spark between them, one that grew stronger with each passing day. When the Auric finally launched their assault, the ishel were ready. The battle was fierce, the skies above Cerulean, three alight with fire and plasma. Ezra fought alongside the warriors, his plasma pistol blazing. In the end, the ishel emerged victorious, their spirit unbroken. In the aftermath of the battle, Ezra stood before the matriarchs once more. This time, it was not as a captive but as an honored ally. "You have done more for us than we could have ever imagined," the matriarch said. "The ishel owe you a debt that cannot be repaid." Ezra removed his hat, a rare gesture of humility. "I reckon I've gained more than I've given. Y'all showed me what it means to fight for something bigger than yourself." As the ishel began to rebuild, Ezra found himself at a crossroads. He could return to the frontier, to the life he'd known, or he could stay and build something new, a legacy that would endure among the stars. Ezra Callahan sat on a crystalline balcony overlooking the vibrant landscape of the ishel homeland. The planet's twin suns were setting, painting the sky in brilliant hues of violet and gold. For the first time in years, he felt at peace. But that peace came with a weight, the knowledge that his choices would shape the future of an entire people. Kaelara approached, her presence as steady and reassuring as the rhythmic hum of the crystalline city around them. "You seem troubled, Starfather," she said, using the title the ishel had bestowed upon him. Ezra sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "You know, I've been running all my life, Kaelara, jumping from one job to the next, never sticking around long enough to put down roots. Always figured that was my lot in life. But now, you are no longer alone," she said softly. He turned to her, their eyes locking. In her gaze, he saw something he hadn't dared to hope for: understanding, acceptance, and a future worth fighting for. "You're something else, Kaelara," he said with a crooked grin. "Y'all are something else. I reckon I'm finally ready to stop running da." Her lips curved into a smile. "Then let us build something together, Ezra Callahan. For the ishel. For us." Ezra's decision to stay among the ishel was met with a mix of relief and celebration. The warriors, once skeptical of the humans' worthiness, now looked to him as a symbol of hope. But the path ahead was far from easy. The ishel had endured centuries of isolation, their culture steeped in tradition. Integrating new ideas and forging alliances with other species required diplomacy and tact, qualities Ezra had in limited supply. Fortunately, Kaelara was there to temper his rough edges. Together, they formed the Starfather's Council, a group of warriors, scholars, and engineers dedicated to rebuilding the Ishel civilization. Under Ezra's guidance, the Ishel began to adapt. They repaired their fleet and developed new technologies, blending their ancient knowledge with techniques Ezra had picked up during his years on the frontier. Trade routes were established with nearby systems, bringing much-needed resources and allies. Yet, not all Ishel embraced these changes. A faction of traditionalists, led by a stern warrior named Thissa, viewed Ezra's influence as a threat to their way of life. "The Starfather brings strength," Thissa said during a heated council meeting. "But at what cost? Our traditions are the foundation of our people. To abandon them is to lose what makes us Ishel." Ezra leaned forward, his voice calm but firm. "Ain't nobody saying, you gotta give up what makes you who you are. But if we don't adapt, we'll be sitting ducks the next time trouble comes knocking. Tradition's important, but survival's gotta come first." The debate raged for hours, but in the end, the majority sided with Ezra. Even Thissa, though unconvinced, grudgingly agreed to give his vision a chance. The victory over the Auric had not gone unnoticed. News of the Ishel's resilience spread across the galaxy, drawing both potential allies and dangerous enemies. Among the latter was a shadowy faction known as the Void Collective, a coalition of mercenaries, pirates, and warlords united by their lust for conquest. The Void Collective saw the Ishel as a ripe target, their rich planet and advanced technology a prize too tempting to ignore. Ezra was alerted to the threat during a routine patrol of the Outer Territories. A scout ship stumbled upon a Void fleet amassing near a neighboring system. The Ishel had little time to prepare. Back in the crystalline capital, Ezra called an emergency meeting of the Starfather's Council. "This ain't like the Auric," he said, pacing before the assembled leaders. "The Void Collective doesn't fight fair. They'll come at us with everything they've got, and they won't stop until we're wiped out or enslaved." Kaelara stepped forward, her voice resolute. "Then we must stand united. We have faced extinction before and survived. We will do so again." Thissa, to everyone's surprise, nodded in agreement. "The Starfather's plans have borne fruit. Our fleet is stronger than it has been in centuries. Let us see if his strategies hold true in the face of the Void." Ezra hid his surprise, but felt a flicker of gratitude. "All right then, let's give him a fight they'll never forget." The Void Collective's fleet arrived with the precision of a predator stalking its prey. Dozens of ships emerged from hyperspace, blotting out the stars. The Ishel, bolstered by Ezra's preparations, met them head-on. Ezra led a strike team aboard the Starlight Runner, a modified Ishel cruiser outfitted with cutting-edge weapons. Kaelara was at his side, commanding the ground forces defending the capital. The battle raged for hours, the skies filled with the deafening roar of plasma cannons and the glow of energy shields. Ezra's years of bounty hunting proved invaluable as he outmaneuvered the Void ships, using the terrain of the asteroid field to his advantage. On the ground, Kaelara led the Ishel warriors in a desperate defense of their sacred spire. Wave after wave of Void soldiers crashed against their lines, but the Ishel held firm, their determination unshakable. In the final moments of the battle, Ezra and his team infiltrated the Void flagship, disabling its command systems and forcing the fleet to retreat. As the enemy ships vanished into hyperspace, a cheer rose across the planet. The victory over the Void Collective solidified Ezra's place among the Ishel. No longer was he an outsider. He was one of them, bound by blood, honor, and shared struggle. But Ezra knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast and full of dangers, and the Ishel would need to remain vigilant. Standing beside Kaelara in the glow of the twin suns, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. Together, they had forged a bond stronger than any he'd known, one that would carry the Ishel into a new era. Years passed, and the Ishel thrived. Under Ezra Callahan's leadership, the tribe transformed from a secluded, struggling people into a formidable force within the galaxy. They rebuilt their fleets, expanded their alliances, and fostered a new era of growth and innovation. Ezra's partnership with Kaelara deepened, becoming the foundation of a new age for the Ishel. Together, They guided the tribe through times of prosperity and challenge, balancing tradition with progress. The once fractured warriors found unity in their shared purpose: survival, renewal, and exploration of the stars. Yet, Ezra knew his time was finite. As a human, his years were but a blink compared to the Ishrael's long lives. This truth weighed on him as the seasons turned, but he faced it with the same steady resolve that had carried him through countless trials. One evening, under the light of the twin suns, Ezra called for a gathering of the tribe. Warriors, scholars, and children gathered in the great spire, the heart of their crystalline city. Kaelara stood beside him as he addressed them. "I've seen more of this galaxy than most, and I can tell you one thing. It's wild and dangerous out there, but it's also full of wonder. You'll have something special here, something worth protecting. And I reckon it's time for me to pass the reins to the next generation." The crowd murmured in surprise, but Ezra held up a hand. "This ain't the end of my story," he said, a smile tugging at his lips. "Just the start of a new chapter. The Ishel don't need me to keep proving how strong y'all are. You've already done that. My part was just to help get things rolling." Kaelara stepped forward, her voice ringing with strength. "Ezra has given us more than we could have ever asked for. He taught us to adapt, to fight for what we love, and to look beyond the horizon. Let his legacy guide us as we chart our course among the stars." The crowd erupted in cheers, their voices echoing across the city. Ezra felt a swell of pride, not for himself, but for the people he had come to call his family. Years later, Ezra's name became legend. The Ishel spoke of the Starlight wrangler who had come from the edge of the galaxy to save their people. His teachings were enshrined in their history, and his descendants, children of both human and Ishel blood, carried his legacy to new worlds. In his final days, Ezra sat beneath the twin suns with Kaelara by his side. They watched as the sky filled with Ishel ships, their silhouettes blazing trails across the stars. "You know," Ezra said, his voice tinged with weariness but still holding its familiar drawl, "I never thought I'd find home out here. Funny how life works." Kaelara smiled, her hand resting on his. "Home is not a place, Ezra. It's the people you choose to fight for." As the sun set one last time, Ezra closed his eyes, content in the knowledge that he had found his place among the stars, a cowboy who had carved a legacy of hope and courage in a galaxy that would never forget him. And above the world of the Ishel, the stars shone brighter, as if to honor the man who had tamed their wild expanse.